Hi friends, this is Amber coming to you from my flower shop here in Atlanta, Georgia, where I give you a sneak peek as to what happens in the background scenes of running a flower shop, and I show you how I make the beautiful creations for my customers. Today we're making this gorgeous wildflower centerpiece. Thanks for joining me. Today we're going to be doing a beautiful centerpiece with the Oasis foam, and my customer wanted something that was bright and cheery and kind of wildflower looking, so let's see what we can come up with. Alright, so I've got a container here, ceramic containers, real pretty, she wanted to use, and I'm going to be using Oasis floral foam. This has been soaking in water, and this is what it looks like when it's hydrated. This is a brand new block, much lighter, and I'll have links to all the tools and supplies that I ever mention at the descriptions of my videos so that you can go ahead and purchase them yourself. When you do use the floral foam, it's important to hydrate it the right way. So what you do is just fill up a sink of water or a bucket or a pan or whatever you have on hand and float this on the top, and as it soaks up the water, it'll slowly sink down. You don't want to push it down. If you push it down, that creates air pockets and little bubbles within the foam, and it doesn't absorb all the water. So, but we've got a perfectly absorbed one right here. And you'll also notice a lot of times there's different varieties of this particular foam. The better variety has these holes on the bottom. It'll work perfectly fine if you don't have it, but this is florist grade. This is what the real florists use. So if you can get it with the holes on the bottom, that's even better, because it helps to continue to drink more water as you add it to your creation. So what I'm going to do is just sort of test here how big I want this piece to be. And it doesn't have to be perfectly fitted into your container because nobody's going to see it. Okay? So just cut about the length that I need. I'm going to cut these angles so that it fits in. And holes on the bottom. And you just place it in there. Okay? And then you want to fill it with water and fill it with preservative. Here's a florist grade preservative that I use. It's just a liquid food. It's very similar to the powder that you get when you buy flowers from the grocery store. If you do use that powder, I recommend you dilute it in lukewarm water before you put it in your arrangements so that it has a chance to dissolve and actually feed the flowers, as opposed to just settle at the bottom of your vase, which could in turn actually burn your stems if you don't do it right. So we're going to start with the greenery in this particular arrangement to help get the foundation and the shape of the creation. My very first greenery I'm going to use is leather leaf, very common, fairly inexpensive greenery that a lot of florists use. And if you look at the leaves, you know, it's nature, so everybody grows a little bit differently, and I want to use this in the most economical way possible, so I look at the stem and I see how can I use this. It's a little too big for my particular creation. So what I'm going to do is make this into two pieces, and then so there's one. I'm going to cut it. Now again, you've got the foam in here, and the foam, you stick it right in the foam and it stays wherever you put it. It's super easy to design with this foam. Having said that, if you put in a stem and it's not where you want it to be and you take it out and you put it in again, make sure you recut it because the foam is going up the stem and it'll block the water. So you just need a fresh cut every time you put flowers into the arrangement. All right, I'm just going to pick some of the broken pieces off, just again to get a basic foundation. Again, I'm going to make this into two pieces. And I spin as I design so that I get a nice round symmetrical arrangement. I'm not going to put too much greenery in here. You won't see most of this. That's why I start with the least expensive greenery. It's really just to sort of start your foundation. So you can see how it's organically developing. I tend to do my flower arrangements without pre-planning it too much so that I can enjoy the creation as it's going. I'm never quite sure what I'm going to end up with. My favorite orders are, which are most of them, especially my regulars, they just tell me the occasion and their budget, any specific color scheme they have, and then I just go for it. And that's the most fun designs to do because they're not too specific on what you're creating for them. Okay, so that's a good start. So that's the leather leaf. My next greenery I'm going to use is this variegated pittosorum. It's called pit for short. And I think the color of the variegation gives it some nice texture and depth. Again, these are the only two pieces I pulled, so how can I best use these? Obviously, we want to make this into 3 pieces. I'm going to take the greenery off the bottom here and put them in, spin, take this guy, put them in. Oh. Okay. Now we're getting a little bit of height and depth with this second greenery. Okay, that's a good start. Now let me introduce you to the flowers we're going to be using today. So we've got a beautiful variety of locally grown zinnias. I call them zinnias. I'm in Atlanta now, but I grew up in San Francisco, and they're zinnias in California. Here in the South, they're zinnias. Nobody at my wholesaler knows what I'm talking about when I say zinnias. So they're zinnias in lots of different colors. These are one of my favorite summer flowers. They're very hardy, bright and cheery. They come in different varieties as far as like the centers go and stuff. So they're all very unique and beautiful. Then we're going to add the gorgeous ranunculus, which is so many people's favorite flower. These are brand new, fresh, and really tight. But when they open, they're really, really petally. It's like a poppy kind of layered look, which is gorgeous. So those will be our 2 focal flowers. Then we'll go in and we will add some Sweet William, another one of my favorite flowers. This is in the dianthus floral group, also related to carnations. And then we've got our trick, our green trick, also in the dianthus flower group. And then we've got beautiful white hypericum berries. And then I'm going to touch it up with some bupleurum greenery. Sorry, it's bupleurum. I always say bupleurum. Bupleurum greenery. And then we've got some solidago. And I'll go ahead and list all the different varieties of the flowers in our description so that you can go back and Google those as well. Okay, so what I want to do is start with my focal flowers and my larger flowers. Because these are going to be an accent, they're just the berries and I only have 3 and they're big, I'm going to put these in first so that it will help with the shape and the structure, and then I'll go in and fill everybody else out. Now I want this arrangement to be not too tight. She wanted kind of a wildflower garden look. So I'm going to sort of space out the stems nicely so that it looks like it's fresh growing, as opposed to a really tight pave modern type arrangement. Okay, so you have to remove the leaves that would otherwise be in the green, into the green foam. And you're going to want to put your flowers in at an angle. A lot of times when I'm teaching classes, one of the mistakes my students make is they put all their flowers in straight up, and it doesn't maximize the surface space of your arrangement. I'll put that berry in at an angle. And then this one in at an angle. Okay, now I'm going to start with my zinnias. I got one bright pink one here, which is kind of, well, a little one too, but since I only have one of the pink, I'm going to start with this. Going to gently take off the leaves. It's always better to cut too long and then keep cutting it shorter as opposed to cut it too short. If you do cut a flower too short, just put it to the side and you can kind of tuck it in as a little filler once everybody else is in place. Okay? So, there's one pretty zinnia. Go. Then my next largest is a gorgeous yellow one. And I'm going to kind of put this one in at an angle over here. Okay? And then I'm just going to keep going through it, spinning as I go. I tend to go through these flower arrangements much quicker than my students do. So I'll make it look a little easier, but trust me, it'll be a full, at least half-hour experience for you. And I suggest you look through the whole video first, and then you can go back and pause and rewind as you're actually creating your own arrangement. Okay? So I'm starting with sort of the muted colors first, and then I'm going to go in with the pops. Maybe put another yellow one over here. And this yellow one over here. Now, I can already see I want to move this yellow one, so I just gently pull it out, make a fresh cut, put it where I want it to be. Okay. Now I'm going to go in with these gorgeous, beautiful fuchsia blooms. Again, at an angle. And another one. Now, you see with these flowers, much like hydrangeas, and if you haven't seen my hydrangea video yet, I encourage you to go back and look at that one as well. But see these little nodes on the stems? This is where the leaves were as it was growing. And the leaves are important because they help draw the water up the stem. But it's important where you cut the stem. The more prominent the node on a flower, the more important this is. But you want to cut above the node as opposed to below it. If you're cutting below it, there's all this fibrous material that the water has to work through to get up the stem. Whereas if you cut above it, it gives it a nice running start. Okay, and I'm just going to keep going as I spin. Now when you're doing centerpieces, pick it up and look at the sides a lot as you're going. I usually fill in the sides towards the end, but it's important because if you're at a table and you're dining with your friends or family, they don't always just see the top, they're seeing the bottom. So we have to make sure we save some flowers to make the bottom look pretty too. So maybe one more of these and then I'll save one for final touches. Okay, so we've got the beginnings of a pretty arrangement. We're going to skip the solidago. All right, so these ranunculus are very, very fragile, so I'm going to wait and do these last. I'm going to go in with the trick balls because they've got a little bit more surface space. And I might not even use all of these. I'm just going to use a few for a cool little accent. Spinning as I go. The more full your arrangements get, the little bit harder it is to find a good spot to stick them in the foam, but you can work through it. Okay, that's beautiful. Now we're gonna go in with Sweet William. Oops, there's a Sweet William. Taking off some of these leaves. Oops, that's not where I want it to go. Spin as I go. I'll do a few in the middle and then I'll go around the sides. Okay, now I'm going to go around the sides, make sure you can see the beautiful colors from everywhere. Oops. Beautiful, bright and cheery flowers. Okay, see how it's starting to take shape? Okay. Now I'm going to go in with a few of these guys. Usually I pick the ones that are opening the most, but again, these are so fresh. Once these open, oh, said it before in one of my videos, one of my saddest things is I never get to see these flower arrangements as they're opening in their full glory a couple days from now, but that's okay. I know what they're going to look like. And then gently put in the ranunculus. Oh, so pretty. Okay. Stem is blocking that spot. Oh, there we go. There's the foam. All right, just a few more. Again, on the edges so we can see them when we're sitting at the table. All right, that seems pretty good. Don't want to overdo it. Now I've got a final touch greenery, the bupleurum. Oops. And again, working with nature, how can I most utilize these? I might not even need to cut this one up. Let's just start with, there's a piece, there's a piece. I'm just going to take a little of the leaves off the bottom. And where do I want this to go? It's like a nice lacy touch. Make this into 2 pieces. Gives it more of a wildflower look. The fuller you go, the more careful you have to be as you're adding, because you don't want to break any of the stems. Oh, final touches. One more. Get a good piece off of this one. Of course, the last piece I'm struggling with. Okay, here we go. All right. There's a beautiful creation. Nice and colorful. I could tilt this because it's got the foam. It's not a vase full of water. And then one final look. I'm going to trim up the greenery along the sides. Lift it and make sure there's no holes. And we are done. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you had a good time watching and that it inspires you to create something beautiful yourself today. Thanks. See you soon.